Hello, and thank you for joining me for another video directly from the Zenonzard Team. I'm Mr. B, your lead translator, and today I actually wanted to get more into the actual cards and the gameplay. This time around, we're going to be looking at the characteristics of red cards, yellow cards, and purple cards. Bear in mind, there are a number of different ways to play these colors, and what I'm showing you is just one or two different ideas for those colors. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So as many of you may know, one of the characteristics of the red cards is that they have an ability called Charge. Now most minions, when they're summoned, cannot attack the player's life on that same turn. But if a minion has the Charge ability, they can attack the opponent's life the same turn that they were summoned. This makes the red deck very good at playing aggressively. Here I have a deck that I've put together that showcases specifically the Charge ability. If your opponent takes too long to react, you'll be able to take them down in the first few turns. So let's see it in action. So here, Alietta and I are facing off against Mina. Let's see if we can take her down before she plays any of her powerful cards. Here we are already on the second turn, and we're going to take our first attack at her life. And we can use Fire Beetle for this. Fire Beetle has the ability Charge, you'll see there, and we can immediately do 1 damage. Now here's one thing I like to do with a charged deck. If I use the Dwarven Champion and combine him with Sam's the All-Seeing Commander, I can give Sam's Charge and I can power up the minions that already have Charge. You'll see it in action here. I play the Dwarven Champion, I summon Sam, and now both of my minions go from 1 DP to 2 DP. Here we are after I attacked with both minions. I may have lost one, but she's also only at 3 life points. If you can keep this up from the beginning of the match, you may be able to take down your opponent before they can even implement any of their strategies. And just like that, we've taken her down before she could build up her mana and bring out a strong minion. Another way you may choose to overwhelm your opponent with the red deck is to keep throwing golems at them by using tokens and destroying their minions by using your magic cards. This is a different idea for a deck that uses the Conjurer of Fiery Spiders. This can be used to bring the Flaming Arachnid to your hand. Now if you evolve this enough, you'll be able to continue throwing golem tokens at your opponent until they can no longer defend. Let's see it in action. Here you'll see I have Rock. I'm going to use her in combination with Diana so that I can draw an extra card using Diana's chain ability. You can see now I have the Flaming Arachnid. And I'll bring Diana to the base so that I can use one of my Megaton hammers on my opponent's turn. You'll notice that the Flaming Arachnid is low cost, only 2 mana. This means I can start evolving it immediately. And just like that, the Flaming Arachnid has gained an ability. Now at the end of my turn, I'll get a golem token that I can use either to defend or attack on my next turn. At this point, my Flaming Arachnid is level 2. If I summon another golem, it'll evolve to level 3. Now at level 3, whenever my golem is destroyed, my Flaming Arachnid will become stronger. If I combine this with Diana, now I have a board full of minions and I can go on the offensive I even have Megaton Hammer to back me up in case my opponent comes up with something from their own hand. The other thing is, you won't have to worry about not having a defense if you use your attacks, because the token is summoned at the end of the turn. So I can just replace one of my tokens that's in the rest state with a token that's in the active state. Therefore, I can attack and defend. Of course, you'll see I have Wallace in my hand. That means by next turn, I can make my minions a lot stronger and a lot scarier than my opponent currently thinks they are. Now that we've looked at red, the nation of Aguma, where the dwarves and the golems live, we're gonna move on to yellow, the kingdom of Kanatana, where the avians, the chimera, and the angels all live together on the sky island known as Triatmos. Here's one idea for a deck that I've quickly put together to show off the Swoop ability. Swoop is going to be one of yellow's greatest assets. You can not only use it to defend yourself, but you can use it to summon minions on your opponent's turn. This means that if you want to play aggressively around the mid stages of the game, you can do so because you've been able to summon minions a lot faster than your opponent has. Let's see what that's like in action. I have just summoned Angela, and there are two ways I can go about my next move. Keeping Angela on the field means that whenever I use the Swoop ability, the minion that I summon will be stronger. This allows me to create a greater defense than I would otherwise. Another option I have is to move Angela to the base and be prepared with 4 mana so that I can use my Swoop ability and I can use build up to power up the minion that I summon. This may be an option you can choose to get your opponent to think that you have nothing to defend yourself with and get them to attack. This way, you can make them use a resource and destroy it, putting you at an advantage. Okay, so Mina's finally attacking, and I've got a number of ways to make sure that the minion that I summon is enough to defend against the minion that she's attacking with. Let's look at each of those ways. First, I'll summon the Crow Tengu. That takes 3 mana. He usually has 300 BP, but since Angela's on the field, she's used the magic card to boost her minion so that it's already at 900 BP. But using a combination of Swoop and magic cards, I will be able to make my minion stronger than hers. And since she's already used her yellow mana, she won't be able to react. I've already used one minion's Swoop ability, so my strongest minion is now at 700 BP. I need at least 300 more BP in order to be able to defend against this 900 BP minion. I can summon the little Crow Tengu for 2 mana. This will give my strongest minion 100 more BP, plus I can activate Build Up, and that will give it 200 more. And now, I'm able to defend against a minion that was supposed to be too strong for me to stop. And in that way, you can take advantage of the Swoop ability to not only make your minions stronger, but to fill your field with minions to defend with, and supply yourself with more minions to use as mana. With the Swoop ability, you'll be able to keep your opponent on their toes and catch them off guard if they are not. Okay, so here we are with a different yellow deck that uses a different ability that the yellow deck can take advantage of. And that is returning cards to the opponent's hand. Now the main minion you're going to be focusing on summoning here is Ruler of the Azure. This is another minion that's summoned by placing an evoker in the base. This strategy is going to be a little bit more aggressive because we want to get that minion out as quickly as possible so that we can continue returning cards to the opponent's hand. And, of course, everyone has a little twist they like to add. For me, that's adding Enrico to decks where I return cards to opponents' hands. With Enrico's ability, which makes both me and my opponent discard our hands, I can get rid of stronger minions that I have no other way of dealing with, and if I happen to start off with a less than perfect hand, I can use Enrico to not only refresh the cards that I'm holding, but I can force the opponent to rethink their strategy and get rid of the cards that they've been saving up in order to implement their own strategy. Let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so here we have our first example of what I was talking about with Enrico. Let's just say, for example, that Blaze is a minion that I really want to get rid of. Yellow has cards that send minions back to the hand, but don't destroy them. How do I get around this? Here I have Ruler of the Azure. If I attack with him, his ability allows me to send a minion with 400 BP or lower back to the opponent's hand. Now that Blaze is back in the opponent's hand, I can summon Enrico, and that will get rid of the card I just sent back. Now that we've looked at yellow cards, we move from the kingdom of Kanatana to the kingdom of Thanatos, where the demon class rules. Purple is the perfect color for people who want to destroy things, regardless of whether those things are on their opponent's side of the field or on their own side of the field. Here I've created a deck that's specifically focused on taking advantage of your own minions when destroyed effects. We'll be using Zintine in order to destroy our own minion, use their abilities, and give Zintine an extra attack. Then, we'll use Belphegor to revive the minions that we've destroyed. And that way, we create a cycle of destruction and revival. Let's see how it works out. Okay, so here we are in the late stages of the game. I have Zintine in my hand. I have 2 minions on the field that have a when destroyed ability. Now, sometimes this can be very tricky. The order in which you attack and the cards you choose to summon can make a huge difference. So I'm going to try to play this so that I can get the most out of my resources. And by resources, I mean my attacks and my abilities. If this goes well, I may be able to destroy both their minions, and I may be able to attack up to 14 times on this turn. Let's see what happens. Now that did not go as planned, but as I mentioned when we were looking at the deck, because we have Belphegor, on the next turn, I can summon him, bring Zintine back, and continue my onslaught of attacks. Okay, so here we are again. I've drawn another Zintine, and we're in another situation where if I do this correctly, I'll be able to dish out a high number of attacks. In this case, 13. And this time, my opponent no longer has the Phoenix Force. So they have no cards to use to defend themselves when I start attacking with Zintine. Let's see if it'll work out this time. Do you see that? I brought my opponent down to 1 life point, and I still have at least 6 attacks left. That's the power of Zintine and the power of destruction. Alright, so that was a brief look at Red Aguma yellow Kanatana, and purple Thanatos. As I mentioned earlier, what I showed you were just some ideas on how to play those cards. You can obviously come up with different strategies, mix and match with other cards of the same color, or even different colors. Let me know your ideas and what other types of combinations you have come up with in the comments below. I'm excited to see what you all come up with. And with that, that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you again for joining me. This is Mr. B, your lead translator, signing off. See you around.